Hey, what's going on, guys? It is your host with the most, Underdone Toast here, coming alive. I'm joined by my co-host, Z Buckner, for episode 24 of the Social Eclipse Podcast. What's up, Buck?
Not much, not much. What's up with you?
I think we've both been pretty busy recently. This week, I got so much stuff going on, dude. Like, I got my rotation
Yeah.
schedule finalized. I have an insane exam on Wednesday. I tried doing my taxes through TurboTax. I went through the entire thing, took me like 2 hours. And at the very end,
Mm.
it gave me an error code. So I called them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you
Oh,
got to redo your entire thing." I'm like, "What?"
oh no. Dude, I did TurboTax until last year. There's apparently this new thing. It might just be in the state of Washington, but there's this new website. I think it's a federal website that like makes it way easier, especially since they don't have to do federal or state taxes here. Like it just guides you through the federal stuff. I'm hoping that's still there this year. I've not checked, but yeah,
Honestly, that
I'm
that
not
should have
looking
been a
forward to
thing
that.
ever since the internet came out. I don't know why
Oh yeah,
they even have us
it's
file our own
absurd.
taxes.
Oh yeah, it is absolutely absurd that we have to do it all. It's even worse as a freelancer. I feel like, I have to pay more taxes than most people do anyway, like an extra 5 something percent. So
Yeah,
yeah, tax season is not fun.
the part that makes the least amount of sense to me is you can do your own taxes, take like 6 hours, you turn it in, and then they send it back, and they're like, "Oh, your numbers are slightly off." It's like, wait, how do you know if they're slightly off unless you've already done all this? Like,
Right,
why am I doing this if you already have the correct numbers?
right. Yeah, what doesn't make sense to me is oh, I just lost my train of thought. I don't know. But I've never been audited, first of all, but second of all, like I've never had them complain on my taxes actually. Like I've never been like these numbers don't line up. Thankfully, I've never had trouble with taxes before. But to be since I self-file everything, I'm a contractor, I'm shocked. Like nothing has gone wrong. Just by virtue of just mistake, all the numbers I have to do myself. And they're not insanely complicated, but I sometimes wonder. I also kind of think that like I'm too low on the totem pole for them to care.
Yeah,
Like I feel like even if I messed it up a little bit, like they really wouldn't care because I'm a peon. So maybe that's what it is. But
I, I swear every year with us something new pops up. I mean, it never like makes it too difficult. We always get turned in on time, but I swear every single
mm,
time we do it, we get some kind of error or get sent back to us, or the numbers are very slightly off. It's so annoying.
really, man, yeah, that
Yeah, like
sucks.
last year, um, last year Hannah's parents accidentally claimed her as a dependent.
Mm,
So, or no, it wasn't even their fault. Like they had like their financial advisor or someone do their taxes for them, and he didn't know that Hannah had
yeah,
gotten married. So I think when he was filing, he's filing my
Mr. Editor, please
in-laws
help,
taxes. When he was filing my
Mr.
in-laws
Editor.
taxes, he made my wife a dependent on there. So then when my wife and I claimed our taxes, it came back and was like, "Oh, you can't do that because you've been claimed as a dependent," and it was like a big headache for us. But
Yeah, yeah, that sucks, dude. I'm kind of worried this year because I feel like I'm not gonna have enough to pay like my taxes, so I'm gonna have to get like the payment plans or whatever,
oh
which
yeah,
is I don't think there's any interest on those. I think for the first couple of years. Yeah, I've never done it before, but it's still a headache. Like it's ridiculous just how much taxes we pay. I'll just say it. Like it's just ridiculous,
so most I know
especially
that
for people who live paycheck to paycheck.
it seems though like most people get a tax return, like they actually get money from doing their taxes. Do you think that's different in Washington because there's no income tax to start with?
No, it's not about Washington. It's about I'm a contractor, so there's really no way to get it, you know, to get anything back. Like I just owe, you know what I mean? Because it doesn't get taken out of. I don't have paychecks like W-2s that it gets taken out of.
Oh,
I don't
gotcha.
pay any taxes until I file them, and then I report this is how much I made in the year. They're like, okay, well then this is how much you owe. So it's pretty much impossible for me to get any sort of returns, which is why, like for contractors, it's we dread tax season even more than the average person.
Yeah. Dang.
Yeah, it sucks. No fun.
Sorry to hear that. Yeah. Yeah. Life's been busy, but it is what it is. We gotta just tackle it all and move on. But the good news is we get a little break from life during this calm, positive podcast that we do weekly. I would like to apologize to the
Yep.
viewers and listeners that I think we missed out either the past week or two. So sorry about that. We got a little busy. Things came up, but we are back on track. And for episode 24, I feel like the topic for this episode was kind of meant to be. It was as if the stars aligned along with the planets. Everything in the sky aligned. Because yesterday, I texted Buck and I was like, hey, I've been thinking about is if old people get afraid of dying. And Buck texted back, he was like, yo, I was just thinking that like earlier today. So
Yeah.
it's meant to
Yeah,
be.
I've been thinking about it a lot lately, but specifically that night before, I was like actually like sitting in bed. But to be honest with you, dude, like I'm being a bit obsessive over this topic for a couple of years now, just because time's been going by quicker, and it's not that I feel behind in life, but like I don't know, like I contextualize a lot of things in my life almost like in like an obsessive compulsive manner. Like, you know what I mean? Like, why am I spending this much time on this if I've only got this many days left in my life and this many hours? Like, that sounds stupid, and I really hope I can get past it, but I feel like it's like my subconscious, it's not something I'm trying to do. And yeah, I'm not sure why exactly I'm thinking that way. Maybe it's some sort of trauma. But maybe everybody has that period of life where it's like something that they think about a lot. So,
Yeah. I know that I don't know if I've said this on the podcast before, but I know that biologically time actually does go by faster as we age. And
yeah,
everyone says that, oh, time just keeps going by faster and faster, but it actually does happen for us because if you're a 5-year-old, then when a year is 1/5 of your entire lifespan. So that's like 1/5 of all that you've ever experienced. But if you're a 60-year-old, then 1 year is only 1/60th of everything that you've experienced. So your brain is like perceiving time going faster and faster because that year seems to be shorter and shorter compared to your entire life. So, I mean, I know that I felt it
is it
for
just like
sure.
that in hindsight though, or is it like that in the actual moment? Because sometimes I wonder if, like, of course, when we look back, like Happy New Year, it's like, oh man, that year was way fast. But like in the moment, does it really feel like that? It's hard to tell.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Definitely in hindsight, but I'm not sure
Yeah.
about in the moment. It
Hmm.
only speeds up when you have kids, by the way, because when you have kids, there's like no downtime. You're constantly trying to entertain them, constantly trying to take
Yeah.
care of them. I mean, it's insane to me that like you and I finished college. What was that now? Like 3 or 4 years ago? three
I
years
think
ago, I
so.
think.
Yeah. Yeah, that is crazy to think about.
Yeah. So anyway, the topic, just to frame it, of what we're discussing today is it frightening to grow old, and how long does our legacy really last after we're gone? So the
Yeah.
reason I was thinking about these yesterday is because Hannah and I are going to be, my wife and I could say Hannah's name. I've said her name 1,000 times.
Yeah, you could say Hannah.
We're going to be moving all over the place for the next year because of rotations. So basically, we're slimming down on all of our stuff. We're selling and giving away a bunch of stuff. So yesterday, we were going through her closet, and she found a bunch of stuff from her grandma, who passed away a while ago. And there was like an entire box full of really cool stuff between her and her grandma, like books and letters and drawings that they shared. And it just got me thinking, like, when I think about my grandparents, I think I have maybe one or two items from them. But when it comes to great grandparents or great great grandparents, like, I don't know anything about them. So that got me thinking, like, how long does it take before not only are we physically gone, we died at 80 or 90 years old, whatever, but like
Hmm.
nobody really knows we ever existed unless they find documentation about us, So that's kind of what got me on track about thinking about it.
Yeah. Well, you're right. We could talk about legacy. We could talk about the actual fear of getting old and dying. I think those are two different topics. So, which one do you want to dive into first?
Let's do the is it frightening to grow old? Because
Yeah.
that's one that, yeah, same thing. I've been wondering about that for like the past few years, just because you never really
Yeah.
hear about it. I feel like.
Yeah, it's true. When you brought that up, you texted me the other day. That was exactly what I was thinking about. I was like, how come you never really see old people, say like, man, like I really got to get this done. I got to get this done, because you never know. Granted, I look at my grandparents and they're retired and they're definitely living it up. You know what I mean? So but that's not, but they don't openly say like, oh man, you just never know. Like like, it's not a big deal. And you're right. Like, I feel like generally you don't hear about that much. Um, so I don't know. I tend to think that maybe you become more at peace with it as you age. But for me now, in a very pivotal time in my life, where I'm like starting a business and still figuring out career, and my girlfriend and I live on opposite ends of the world, and there's a process, probably marriage, that would take quite a bit of time for her to even be with me. We're thinking like 18 months to 2 years from the moment we want to get married. After that, there's an immigration process and everything. So in my mind, I'm like, look, if I only have 50 more years left to live, you know, generously, uh, that's a
Oh
long
God,
time to not.
you
What's
got longer than
you think
that.
it's long? I don't know, man. Not with my current diet. But anyway, let's say 50 years, just given the average American lifespan, male American lifespan. See, in my head, I'm like, man, that's 2 years I don't get to be with someone I really want to be with. You know what I mean? And that's precious time to me. I want to make the best of my time. So like I've been thinking about that a lot lately, and not just in my relationships, but like in my career. It feels like, man, if you don't pick something right now, I mean, that's okay. Like it's okay to change your mind, but like for some things like building towards retirement, putting in index funds, building a skill. They say it takes 10,000 hours to build a skill. Well, the earlier you start, the more you can compound that kind of stuff. So I am right now, I'm really thinking about like what kind of time am I wasting here? Why do I spend so much time on trivial stuff, worrying about trivial stuff? Because this can all go someday. Like I gotta make the most of my time.
Yeah, I think that's why so many people talk about regret as being one of the worst things that you can experience when you're older.
Yeah.
Because throughout life, we might be in a place that's hard financially, or maybe we don't have maybe very many relationships, uh, physical health, whatever it may be. Like, all those things suck for sure. But I hear all the time, especially from older people, like, oh, I wish I would have done this, but now it's too late. Or when I was younger,
Yeah.
I should have made better choices, all these different things. And for me, that opens up my eyes and helps me realize that no, we can't, even though we are still fairly young, we're in like our mid 20s right now. Yeah, we could mess around and diddle here and mess around, do whatever we want. But
Diddle?
diddle here, you never heard that?
Oh, I've heard of it. That's an interesting term to be using in 2026, my guy.
I like diddle here, diddle here, diddle there.
Diddly squat. Continue. Sorry.
you're you're good. It was a silly word for me to use. Um, but so for us in the moment, it doesn't seem like a big deal to mess around. But when we're older, we're gonna be looking back, and we are gonna more easily realize that like
Mm,
those times were precious that we had, very important. Every
yeah.
year mattered, every month mattered. So, and I've seen that a lot with some people in my life where they're really young, they're in their late teens, early 20s, and they've been messing around so far, and it's already starting to hit them, like how much they've screwed up their lives, and they just got started.
Yeah,
So, yeah, it goes to
I
show
agree.
that even if we don't realize it, like every year, every month really does matter what we're doing.
It does. I've noticed a big shift in myself since becoming agnostic in the past, couple years. Because now I don't know what's comes after this life. Like it could very well be nothing. And that is like, for anybody who says that's not a scary thought. I'm not saying like some people don't make peace with it, certainly, but I feel like for most people that is a scary thing. Um, but hopefully I come to peace with that being a possibility someday, or maybe I, find, a different religion or whatever. But since having recontextualized life and that it might be finite, well, it's certainly finite, but my existence might be finite. Um, I think it adds a whole nother layer. I'm not sure what to do with that information because, like I said, everything's unsure, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, to me. If this was all, if this is it, but it does kind of change how you make decisions in life, and it kind of changes, how you see. We'll get into legacy and that kind of thing.
Yeah, there's a pretty famous quote. I can't remember if it was from a movie or what, but I think it goes, in this world, nothing can be said to be certain except for death and taxes. And
Hmm.
the reason I like that
Yeah.
quote is because it's right. Like you can't say for sure that you're not going to win the lottery. You can't say for sure that you're not going to be struck by lightning. But something that we all can say for sure is we're all going to die. Like it is the most inevitable thing of our lives, which is a big deal because it's also like the scariest thing to some people, right?
Hmm.
And yeah, I would say that it depends on who you're talking to, who's agnostic or atheist or whatever. I know that, funny enough, I think it was Dr. Seuss who said that, was it Dr. Seuss? Maybe it was Mark Twain. Some famous authors said that they're not afraid to die because they've been dead for billions of years. And so, like,
I think it was Mark
returning,
Twain.
Mark Twain,
Yeah.
okay, so returning to that nothingness isn't like a very big deal for them. Um,
Right.
yeah, so it's going to depend individually, but no matter what your perspective is, we all know that like at the end of this life, like that's it for this life, whether you're religious or not. Like that's, everything that you try to get done is now going to be put to a halt. So
Yeah.
it really is limited.
Yeah. Uh, that, to be honest, that quote I've heard it before. It brings me a little bit of comfort, but at the same time, the reasons I fear death is not because of that, like experiencing nothingness, like being in a void. You know what I mean? The reason I fear death is because, yeah, like you're no longer experiencing like this. Like the people you love. Well, we don't know about that. It depends on heaven or whatever. But like certainly, like the music you love, the movies you love, like the experiences that are exclusive to this life, whether you like it or not, will be gone. And that's just the way of things. But to me, I live my life. Some of the things I treasure most are like just like wanting to experience life. Does that make sense? Just like experience different things that this earth has to offer. And the
Mm-hmm.
idea that someday that'll be gone is terrifying. If I could know for sure that there was something else, even if it wasn't the same, if there was something else for me to experience, whether it's better or worse or whatever, personally, it would make me feel better. I don't like the idea of not existing anymore. Not because that's a scary thought, but it's just, I don't like not being somewhere. Does that make sense? Like,
Right.
I want to always exist in some form. So I like the theories that are like, oh, all matter is, matter moves, or matter can't be destroyed. So like, not reincarnation, but like you will exist in some form, and somehow that kind of brings me comfort. But at the same time, I'd like to be with the people I love at the very least. So how does that exactly work out? So It's complicated, and I would say, if someone asked me at this moment, like, "Hey, do you fear death?" I'd say, "Yeah." To be honest, I hope someday I make peace with that, but yeah, I don't like the idea of just like ceasing to exist.
Yeah. Well, the good news is you may not like the idea, but once you're dead, it's not gonna
You
matter.
won't care.
Yeah,
True.
that guy isn't gonna care in the slightest.
You will, you will not care at all.
So
That's a good point.
you can
Good point.
fear that, but once it actually happens, you're not gonna have an ounce of fear anymore.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. Yeah.
So bringing this back to becoming old. So do we think that the reason older people don't seem to be afraid of death is because they feel like they've fulfilled all they wanted to accomplish in life?
In a way, because I think, let's say you're 80 years old, right? I feel like, sure, you can have regret, and there certainly is regret for some people, but I feel like it's easier to make peace with something you can no longer do anymore. Does that make sense? Like right
Mm-hmm.
now, I've got my whole life ahead of me. It's like, man, I don't want to screw it up. But when you're 80 years old and you're looking back, you're like, man, I wish I did this. I wish I did this. But I did this right. I did this right. Like it's a mix of all of that. But at the same time, it's like, well, there's nothing I can do about it. And there's only so much time you can spend lingering on something you can't control. Um, some people can let it consume them, but I think the average person just kind of thinks about it and it's like, oh well. So in that sense, yeah, I think it's easier to make peace with regret and with life when you are near the end because you no longer have that control and it's just like, oh, I'm gonna I'm just gonna make the best with what I got, and in that sense, there is like a peace.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Once you're at the very end, so you can have some regrets, but overall, if you feel like you did a pretty good job and you were pretty fulfilled, then you're gonna be like, may have some regrets, but oh well, like it's fine.
Yeah.
I know that for
So.
me personally, I don't really fear death. I do fear the pain that may come with death, depending on how I die. But
Hmm.
what I do fear is exactly what we're talking about. It's like what I leave behind, what goes unfulfilled. If I were to die
Yeah.
right now, then I have a wife and two kids who are now fatherless and doesn't have that husband in the family, and there are people around me who I'm sure would miss me, and I feel like I have a whole career that I still need to fulfill. So yeah, I definitely
Hmm.
fear not not death itself, but the implications of death, I would say. So
Yeah.
if someday I'm 80 years old and I'm looking back and I had a bunch of great kids and I had a really long marriage with my wife and great career, then I don't see any reason why I'm going to be fearing death at that age. I'm not sure. I'm glad that you sent me that article from Ian McKellen because he said himself that he was atheist, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it seemed like he was at peace with death too. Like he was like, I recognize that I'm not immortal, and I know that death's around the corner, but I'm okay with it because he also felt fulfilled in all that he had done in life, even without kids, even without religion. So I guess it's going to depend on who you are, on what that definition of feeling fulfilled is.
That's true. And as someone I mean, Ian McKellen is an artist, like I'm not going to compare myself to Ian McKellen, but I like to think that his thoughts, if he ever did fear death, it'd probably be for the same reason I had. The guy is a performer. He's a creative. He loves experiencing things and creating things. And so for him to say that, I feel like I not relate to him at some point, but like it gives me a little bit of peace that like as long as you feel as long as you do what you can, and I'm probably not going to be famous like him, so I'm sure that has a part of it. He really just achieved like the pinnacle of his craft, so I might not have reached that point, but like on a personal level, certainly, like my own standards, I can reach that. So I definitely think that fulfillment is not an impossible goal to achieve if that's what makes it easier and that's what brings you peace. And for some people, I guess it is. So,
Yeah. Another question I'm thinking of is So all animals from the dawn of time have aged, as far as I know.
Mhm.
So we know that it's biologically wired into us. Like everything ages, it's extremely expected. We all know that at some point we're going to die. Do you think the fear of aging like comes from us deep down biologically just not wanting to die, or do you think it's socially constructed in sorts?
I think it's both, but I also think it's something that I feel. When you think about it objectively, it's like, who cares? You know, you'll never be younger, but like, who cares? Like, you're just experiencing a different age anyway. But like for me, it's like they say that once you hit a certain age, your body deteriorates. For someone who likes to be athletic and likes to do sports and stuff, it always kind of depresses me to see like professional athletes retire and like they can't do, you know, they can't be at their peak anymore. Like they just right now the Winter Olympics is going on, and I used to grow up watching Shaun White in the half pipe snowboard, and he's a commentator now. But this week they had him go down the half pipe. You know, just he can't compete anymore. But he went down, and they're just like, hey, do your best. And like he did good, but like of course he didn't do anything close to what he used to do. And I was like, oh man, that sucks. And so for me, like the it's kind of like, man, at some point your body physically cannot do things that it used to do. And I don't like that idea personally. I think for me that's what makes aging scary because it kind of limits you at what you can experience in life.
Yeah, there's a really popular chess match that happened um, maybe a year ago now.
Hmm.
It was a Grandmaster Daniel Naroditsky. Some of you out there may know the name because he unfortunately passed away just a couple months ago. A very young guy passed away. But anyway, he was
Hmm.
facing a different Grandmaster in the World Championship. And his opponent was like used to be number 2 or 3 in the world, but nowadays he's like 50 years old. And basically, they were having a really competitive match, and his opponent was actually winning. The older guy was winning, but he lost on time, even though he was winning. And he said afterwards, like, I knew exactly what moves to make. I knew exactly how I was going to win the game, but my hands literally couldn't move as fast as Daniel's could.
Oh.
So that's why he lost. And he it was a really emotional game because right when he lost, like he started crying like in front of
Yeah.
everyone. It was a really sad thing to see. But yeah, that's something that I'm not looking forward to at all. It's one reason why I want to stay healthy is
Yeah.
because first of all, I fear dementia, I think more than anything. It seems like
Yeah.
absolute hell. And second of all, I don't want to be one of those older people who are sitting on the couch in a vegetative state watching TV all day every day because they can't do anything else. Like I want to be that kind of
Yeah.
guy that is still running at 70 years old and is still going on hikes and running around playing with the grandkids. I
Hmm.
I would hate to turn out in any other form.
Dude, I get existential about it sometimes because not only is life short, but you're telling me that like I can only because you can't like you don't count childhood because you're too dumb enough to like actually be like to actually know to be athletic and do all this stuff. And then you have to say the body deteriorates after like 35, right? That's when most athletes start retiring. That's like a 20-year window where like we are at our peak, you know, where we can do everything that the human body can do. And then the other bits of life, I mean, it's already short enough, but like there's a small window where you're at your peak is just depressing. Like it just is, just for me to think about. I hate that. I think it's dumb. I if there's any sort of like advancements in science and like human achievements that we should be working towards, I think like aging is great. You know, let's live longer for sure, but like we need to like extend those peak years. You know what I mean? That's gotta
Yeah.
be that's a great advancement, even by like 10 years or whatever. And they're certainly trying to do that. But like you said, I mean, it does make a difference. I mean, you can certainly be healthier. I know like people in their 60s who still run marathons. I'm not saying it's impossible, but the fact that we have to like put in so much effort to fight it is interesting.
Do you know why we age, Buck?
I think it's gravity, isn't it?
Gravity? So you're saying that we want to age
Yeah.
in space?
Not that we wouldn't age, but I think they've proven that like if we lived on, is it Mars? I don't know. If we lived on a planet that had less of a gravitational force, we wouldn't age as fast.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I could be, it might just be appearance. That's what I don't remember. It might just be appearance. But if I remember right, I think it was even like how long you live. Yeah.
Oh,
Like
okay.
gravity has a lot to do with it.
Well, that may be true, but something I was gonna say from what I learned in my biology class a few years ago is at the very end of our chromosomes we have these things called telomeres. They're
Mhm.
basically like little protective caps, and each time our cells divide, they get shorter and shorter until eventually they run out. So now our cells start dividing with no protective caps on the end, so we start losing DNA. And I mean, it's
Yeah.
very slow as it happens, but every single time our cell divides, once that happens, our DNA starts to break up more and more and more, and that's basically why our bodies and organs start breaking down. Just thought it was kind of interesting.
So what's the solution?
They're working on it. They're trying to find ways to synthetically attach basically synthetic matter onto the end of telomeres to extend it. That's not going to
Hmm.
stop us from dying because we're still going to die from things like
Yeah.
cancer and accidents and whatever else can cause organ dysfunction. But in terms of the body actually slowly breaking down, like that could push it off for a really long time.
Yeah. I think that'd be kind of depressing to die right before that was invented. But
Hey, you could always freeze
who
your
knows?
brain. Maybe they'll have it in 1,000 years.
True. If I
Like
was a
Walt Disney.
billionaire, I think I would do that.
Don't they have Walt Disney's head frozen somewhere?
Supposedly. I don't know, man. Like even as an agnostic, like I really hope there's something after this, you know? That would be nice. And the one caveat, like I would like to remain connected to people I love. Like for me, that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Which isn't like a crazy take, I'm not the only one out there. It's a very common take.
Yeah. Well, we haven't had a semi-religious episode in a while. Maybe we should do one of those pretty soon. Talk about the afterlife.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, we've touched on it sometimes, like with immortality and whatnot, but we could definitely do that.
because I feel like as time goes on, the major world religions like Christianity, Judaism, and Islam decrease. Well, actually, I think Islam is still growing, but overall, religion seems to be decreasing in the world. However, I feel like most people are becoming agnostic now, not so much atheist, because everyone's still like, okay, I don't
Yeah,
believe in these religions, but like I still feel like there should be a purpose to all this. Like everyone feels like
yeah,
it doesn't seem right to just have there be no higher power. So
yeah.
we
And
could
I
always
believe we've
discuss that.
touched on this, but for me, they haven't really solved what consciousness is yet. Like matter is this, and you've got the brain and everything, but like nobody's really solved consciousness. Like, how come we all have a consciousness that can't really be measured? And where did it come from, and where does it go? You know, Religion says that's a soul. For me, that's that's kind of the big question mark in the air that makes me think that you know surely there's something else, right? Can't say for sure what it is, but it has to go somewhere. So, but
Yeah,
yeah, we should definitely do some sort of episode on that.
it it seems weird that biology would come so far to like make a human how intricate and complex they are and then just have it like end.
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
in scientific terms, the hypotheses were meant to grow, reproduce, and die. And so basically, our entire existence purpose is to reproduce. But For some people that doesn't feel right. So okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's well said.
So anyway, going back to what we were talking about a little bit. So do you feel like our culture makes death scarier than it needs to be? Because I know that not recently, maybe it was last episode actually, you were talking about those really old guys on some Japanese island and like how they were the
Yeah,
happiest people ever. I
yeah,
mean, in our culture, we kind of, I don't want to say we frown upon old people, but we don't respect them nearly as much as we used to. And maybe
mm,
that's another reason why we kind of fear getting old is because we don't respect the elderly. They don't look healthy to us. They don't look like they're enjoying life to us. But if we went to that
yeah.
Japanese island where people are going to be 100 years old and they're all smiling and having a grand old time, then maybe that would actually reduce our fear of death.
It's a great point. I never thought of it that way, but what I think about when you say that is like the generational gap. I mean, people always love to say, "Oh, the boomers," but like generally or genuinely, look around like in Western society, and like there are so like even just between us and our parents, like it's not as big of a divide as us and like the baby boomers, but like even just to the next generation. I mean, look at the next generation, like like under us, like younger than us, like the gap is there. The way we see things, the way we talk, like I just think that there's such a big divide, especially between us and like the baby boomers who are like the elderly now, that you're right. Like they're so different that it's like, man, I don't want to be like them. Not that we would, by the time we get there, it's not like we're gonna just evolve into them somehow, but I think that that gap is just so wide that we kind of fear it. Whereas, in this island that I talked about in this book, where these people live so long and the elderly are like ingrained into society. They're farming with the rest of them, and they're respected, and they talk with the youth all the time, and they're participating in these youthful events, and that's kind of more of an Eastern idea. I feel like, and it's the same with like the way they live. In Eastern countries, you'll find a lot of homes where like 3 generations, even 4, will just live under the same roof, and we don't do that in Western society. So absolutely, I didn't think about it until you said it, but I think that our culture in different parts of the world has a lot to do with the fear of aging.
Yeah, and you just made some great points about how integrated old people are into society. I definitely feel like in our society, it comes down to like kids, adults who are just working their butts off all day, every day, and then retired people. I don't feel like there's
Yeah,
very much overlap in that. But like you said, in some other countries, you're going to have a 14-year-old working right by a 70-year-old in the farming field, or
mm,
whenever you're hearing stories, you're going to be taught, maybe you're sitting on a bus, you're talking to a really old person while you're really young. We don't see that at all. Like young people talk to young people,
yeah,
middle-aged people talk to middle-aged people, and old people talk to old people. That's just kind of the way it
yeah,
is in America, it seems like.
yeah. I'm thinking like if I spent time, and I have, like certainly, I go to trivia almost every week, and some of the people who go there's this elderly couple. I mean, they're in their at least mid 80s. I love talking to them. One of them's a Vietnam vet, and I talk to him all the time. I've got a friend, John. John is what is he in, like in his mid 60s now? Very healthy guy, by the way. Has nothing to do with what I'm about to say. But I love just talking to people, regardless of their generation or their age or whatever. And I feel like if I spent, most of every day just talking to these people, and like they were my friends, just like you and I are just a couple weeks apart in age, but like if I talk to them just as much as I talk to you, I feel like subconsciously I would not really care much about becoming their age, because why would I? I mean, they're just like me. I talk to them every day. We get along just like anyone else would. So maybe it's just like the old adage, like we say, you fear things you don't understand. And we would become happier and we would fear people less if we just understood them and we went out and discovered new, cultures and new language. I think it's the same with age. If we spent more time with them, uh, that would be normalized more than it is.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess it's different talking about aging and death on like which ones we fear, but just as I'm thinking about it, I guess we could say that as you're aging, there are several different things you could fear, right? First of all, you could fear becoming lonesome, like ending up all by yourself in a retirement home. I know that that's a huge fear for some people. You could
Yeah.
fear becoming unhealthy, either mentally or physically, and then you
Hmm.
could fear death itself. And all these, like, they are real concerns that we should all be wary of. But at the same time, I feel like if you proactively work on your life in a positive manner, then you can somewhat control if you're going to have to face at least the first two of those.
Yeah, unfortunately, the one that scares me the most is the one you can't control. But but you're right. Absolutely. You can definitely control the loneliness one. You can control the health one to a certain extent. I don't know. Maybe, man, maybe it is about control. Like for me, if you ask, like, what's your solution to all this? Of course, like I said, like maybe spending more time and integrating, different generations together. But recently, what I've been doing a lot is like organizing my life, like even down to like digitally, like, organizing pictures and everything so that when I, in the future organize them, it takes less time and it's easier to see and I appreciate things more. When I'm organizing my pictures, I used to put almost everything like into albums. Like this was the entire trip of this, I just group it all into an album. But now I like, what are the highlights of that trip, you know? So if I want to just look over all my trips, uh, here's this trip, and then you see like the three best photos. And if you want to see more, you certainly can, but it's more intentional and it's more of, you know, experiencing the past rather than just everything. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but, organizing my life digitally, being more intentional about what I'm consuming. Um, yeah, especially like, man, I had some stupid games on my phone that like, I'm like, no more, man. Like if I'm
Pre-gaming.
gonna be, yeah, like it's true. It's like, what's the difference between, reading a book is entertainment just as much as this brain rot content is, but like looking back, like I'm certainly gonna like I'm not gonna regret reading a good book, So for me, that has certainly helped. Just making things way more intentional about what I'm consuming, even at this young age, because we're not old yet. But that intentionality has kind of taken back some control and kind of assuaded some of those fears lately. That's been my way of tackling it. And like you said, health. Unfortunately, like for budgetary reasons, I can't eat super healthy right now. But like, you better believe, like that's one of the first things I'm gonna start doing once I start making more money. It's like I want to eat healthier. This is the time. You can only cheat for so long, and then it starts catching up to you. So
Yeah, it's when I was researching the Mediterranean diet, I know that there's tons of different diets out there, but something that I didn't understand for a while is, hey, if I'm like eating calories and if I'm eating enough calories but not gaining fat, then is my lifespan really going to change that much more compared to the length of a lifespan of someone who's doing a Mediterranean diet? And apparently, like it's a huge difference. If you're doing a certain diet that's
really,
really healthy your entire life, then it actually is going to extend your life and your health benefits. Because I guess it's because you're constantly getting the correct amount of nutrients and you're constantly like storing the better fats and the better vitamins. I'm not really sure. I'll need to look more into it, but yeah, apparently
yeah,
diet has a huge like long-term outcome, not just short term.
yeah. I'd like to do more research on that. And like I said, I'm pretty limited right now, but eventually I really want to get into like what a good diet looks like and healthy exercise because this book I'm reading, like that was one of the things they attributed to is like their diets, and it wasn't necessarily what they ate, it was how much. It says in there that they only ate until they were like 80% full. And I know you can't know that for sure, but like they never stuffed their face, which is an interesting prospect. Apparently, it aids in digestion, like they stated some studies. But I had a great grandpa. He just recently died, and he lived to 97. And I asked him, like, what do you attribute to your long age? The number one thing he said to me was his diet. He said, I cut out red meats. And, I don't know if I could do that. But it is interesting that he said that, It's got to be worth something.
Yeah. I've been taking a few notes, so I gotta run through a few things before I forget them all. Okay,
Okay.
first thing is we should have a philosophy podcast on those people from the Japanese islands. Like what?
You want to? We
Yeah,
could do book. We could do a book review on my findings because I'm making notes.
yeah. I mean, we could do the book or just research it
Well,
online,
we could
whatever you
research
want.
it.
We might as well do the book
Yeah,
though, because I've always wanted to look more into it. But I think it'd make
sure.
a good podcast. I don't know if it's more science related than philosophy though, because we'd be researching like.
No, it's fine, man. We can do it. Yeah, I'll tell
But
you what. It's a short book, so I'll finish it. Let you know if it's worth reading. So far, it is. And then I can, we can discuss whether we want to research it more. I'm sure we will. Whether you want to read it, and then we'll do a podcast. I don't think we have to worry about it being philosophy or not. I think it's something worth talking about.
okay, yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and add that to our list right now then, because I think that'd be fun to cover. Okay, second
Yeah,
thing.
I've been really into like books that are like, mental health, not mental health, but like philosophy and man's search for meaning. That book is about like how to reframe your life, not really how to live longer, but how to live a better life. And then this Japanese book is the opposite, like literally how to live a longer life. Like I've been really into that kind of stuff lately.
Well, in your book, talks about how intertwined those two are correlated, right? Apparently,
It's
the
true.
happier you are, the longer you're gonna live. Like
Yeah,
it's a
absolutely.
pretty
Good point.
obvious trend that's been proven, which I think is
Good
cool.
point. Yep.
Okay, another thing. So, as you know, Hannah and I always like to joke that she is an old soul because she always loves talking to old people, like cute old ladies, and she loves old people games. So,
What,
for the
like Minesweeper?
yeah, like Minesweeper and Solitaire and Tetris, it's pretty funny. Anyway, so she
Okay.
was into chess for a while, but we're both taking a break, and she's gotten into Liar's Dice. She's kind of hooked
No,
on it.
really?
And I
That's
sent you a link to
awesome.
the app that we use, Buck. You gotta check it out
Oh,
because Hannah and
true.
I
Yeah, we gotta.
we've been playing it a lot recently, and I think personally, it's at least a little bit cognitively stimulating. You gotta think about what your opponent's thinking, and you gotta think about the odds.
Mm,
So it's not brain rot in my opinion. So go check that out.
yeah, we should. I love that game. Has she seen Pirates of the Caribbean?
We're watching them right now. We just finished the second one actually.
Dude, that's awesome. Trevor is showing his girlfriend. She's never seen it. Apparently, they're in theaters right now, so he's taking her every night to see each one.
Really?
And yeah, she's loving it.
That would be fun, especially the third movie. I feel like would be awesome in theaters.
Oh, that'd be so sick. That was like our version of Endgame when we were kids.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Third thing, just to reel it back in to what we were talking about. So while we're still on the topic of fear of dying, let's say that you have two different groups here. All right. One is a group of old people whose spouse is still alive when they die
Hmm.
at like 80 years old. And now let's take a look at the second group of people. You're growing old, you reach 60 years old, and your wife dies of whatever, a heart attack. And now you're
Yeah.
living, and you're living for years and years and years. What differences do you think there's going to be in the two groups? Do you think the second group is now like more readily accepting of death because their spouse is gone?
Phew. You want to know something funny? I actually think about this, and do you know why?
Why?
So Jane is from the Philippines. They have an average lifespan in their 60s. Like most half, like, sorry, how do I phrase that? The average Filipino dies in their mid 60s. Did you know that? I didn't know that.
I did not. Do you think that's due to like genetics or lifestyle?
I think it's lifestyle, and I've been there, dude. Like just the like a, something as stupid as like the air is super polluted there. Like you don't think about that kind of stuff, but when I say lifestyle, they think like, oh, they don't eat as well, and like their living conditions are as well. But even like the water they drink and like the pollution over there, I think it has to do something with it. So my my thinking is like if she gets over here, that'll help. But anyway, so I do think about that. But what was your question? One versus the other. Which one's what?
So, how do you think old people view death in terms of if they have a living spouse or not?
Oh, good point. Good point. Um, I think that regret we talked about, where it's like, oh man, like this. Not that there's much you can do about that. Uh, I feel like you won't be as much as peace as much as you would be because that's like so crucial. I mean, you could always have a different job and everything, but like hindsight's 2020. Man, I can't imagine. Like you have to spend the last 20 years without the person you love the most. I feel like at that point, maybe you kind of want to go quicker. So in a way, maybe you're at, more at peace with the idea, actually. Yeah, that's an interesting question. What do you think?
Yeah, I would agree. And I get this mostly from church. Like, I'll go to church and I see a bunch of older ladies, like, sitting by themselves or with their friends. And I often think to myself, this lady used to have a spouse, probably married for 40 or
Yeah,
50 years. And, right now, you and I are still pretty young, Buck. Like, we're in our mid 20s. I've been married for a few years now. But once you're married to someone for 30, 40, 50 years, you forget what life was like
yeah,
without them. So I feel like if your spouse
yeah.
passes away at that point, I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little negative, but in my opinion, I would feel like there's not much. There's no reason to keep going because like half of me has already died. Does that make any sense?
No, I agree 100%. I feel like you're so dependent. I don't know if dependent is the right word, but you're right. They're like half your life. And at that point, you're like, all right, like maybe my life is done. You know what I mean? Like I totally get it. I think I would feel that way.
Yeah. I
Wonder
mean,
how many years it would take for me to feel that way, Because like obviously if I broke up with my girlfriend, I love her very much and I hope that we have a future, but like I'm 27. I could find someone else. But like you're right. Like how many years do you have to spend with someone? Maybe like 30 plus, and then you're like, man, like I've lived my life. If she's gone, maybe that's it for me. Like I totally get that.
yeah. I mean, I just picture myself if I'm really old and my wife dies, then I don't know. I just feel like I'm gonna be begging. I don't know how else to say this. I feel like I'm gonna be begging for death. I'm gonna be like,
Yeah.
okay, I like nobody's reliant on me. All my kids are moved out, and I love them. I love my family and all. But now that my wife is gone, like, just take me.
Yeah.
Just take
Here's
me
a
away.
question for you. Because I think I used to know what the answer is, but now that I'm thinking about it, I'm not sure what I would say. Would you rather be the first to go? Do you ever think about that? Would you rather be the first or second to go? Because one of you has to go first.
that that's actually a joke between Hannah and I. I wouldn't even say it. It's not
A
even really a joke because
joke.
it's based on fact. But the
What? Because your
reason,
health sucks and you have so much sugar? Not
no,
that your
no,
health sucks. That was a joke, but you do have a lot of sugar.
I do have a lot of sugar. Don't worry. I watch my diabetes levels. I'll make sure I never get diabetes. But no, for the past few years, one of my New Year's resolutions has been running, and
Yeah,
I always tell Hannah that the reason I want to run and like start running while I'm still young and continue running throughout my life is because
yeah.
a big goal for me in life is to outlive her. And the reason
Just
for
out of
that,
spite.
no, 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 no. The reason for that is because I would rather go through the pain of losing a spouse than having her
Mm,
go through that pain.
I
Like,
don't know, man. I understand that, like from a selfish standpoint, but I think I disagree. I don't think I could live without my spouse. I feel like I'd rather go first. I don't know.
Right, but the
Maybe I
other
don't
way
really know
around is
until I.
now your spouse has to live without you, which is just going to be as hurtful.
That's true. Just as bad.
So,
Yeah,
in my
that's true.
opinion, like it's gonna suck majorly, of course, but I would rather
That's true.
take that upon myself rather than leaving my spouse like by
Yeah,
herself.
that's honorable. That's honorable. Yeah, it's a
And
good point.
I don't want to say it's honorable. It's just like I don't know. It's just kind of common sense to me. But
No, I
maybe
get
it's
you.
not the way
I
for
get you.
everyone.
I think I agree with you. I just think, I don't know, man. Oh, I don't know. Like your spirit breaks, dude. Like I know my great grandparents were old, but they went one after the other. Like, you know. And when my great grandma died, like my great grandpa was in great health, and his health just deteriorated. Like you could tell, like he missed her like dearly, which is sad. It's really sad. And they were in their 90s, so it's not like it was a shock. Like he was gonna go, but I genuinely think like he would have lived longer had his wife not go. Like it really does a number on you. So
Yeah,
it is sad that like no matter what, one of you will have to experience that. Like that's just weird to think about. Very sad.
yeah. I've heard stories of couples where like one person dies and not of an accident or a car crash or anything like that, but just of natural circumstances. And then like a few hours later the other spouse dies. Same thing. Natural circumstances like a heart attack or whatever. So I definitely
Yeah.
think that losing I've seen charts before where therapists or psychologists would make it and they'll say like, oh, rank these really stressful events in what you've been through recently. It might be divorce or death of a loved one or moving or starting a new
Hmm.
job. And since losing your spouse is probably the number one highest thing on there, that has to be a ton of stress and anguish on your body when something like
Yeah.
that happens. So maybe it really does take like a huge health toll.
It does. And a weird thing that I think about sometimes, I feel like if my spouse died, somehow you're right. Like I would be at more peace with death, and I'll tell you why. Even if I don't believe there's anything after, I feel like it'd be like, all right, well, I want more than anything. There's nothing I want more than to be with them. Like they are my life. Maybe I'm a romantic, but like that's what's important to me. And for a lot of people, that's the number one thing. And so like I either join them wherever they are, or we're both done. We're in it together. Do you get me?
Mm-hmm.
Like if they're somewhere, I might as well join them. You know. So
Right.
you're right. In a weird way, I think I would be at more peace with death if like I was the second to go and I watched my loved one do it. And I really do believe that willpower, like you really do live longer with willpower. I've actually like, that line everybody clowns on in Revenge of the Sith, like she's lost the will to live. Everyone's like, oh, that's so stupid. I'll be honest, man. I actually think that's a real thing, like genuinely. Like, and I asked Jane about this because she used to work in a hospital. And I said, what do you think about that line? Like, they lost the will to live. And she's like, oh, yeah, that's a real thing. Like I've seen that. I saw it in my grandpa. Like, there's at some point, a broken heart really just, you just lose your life. Um, and which has a lot of implications, on how we live our everyday life, just generally. And like I said, that book, Man's Search for Meaning, actually talks a little bit about that. So it's definitely a real thing.
Yeah, someday we'll have an episode where we talk about medical situations, but I'll give a little sneak peek right now because this is something we
Mm.
talked about in one of my perfusion classes. So there was two different people who were lined up and they needed a heart transplant, and one of
Cool.
them and one of
I
them
love these.
was obese or had diabetes or had some kind of major health issue, and the other one had no major health issues, but they had no familiar support, like no relationships with anyone. And it turns out the
Mm.
doctors, the committee, decided to give the heart transplant to the person who is more physically unhealthy. And the reason for that is because apparently, if like one of the disqualifying factors that they could give you is if you're a perfectly healthy individual, but you have no healthy relationships with other people, because of that is how that's like a
Man,
major contribution to whether you're going to have a successful heart transplant or an unsuccessful heart transplant.
they actually take that into account in perfusion, or not perfusion, but in like in the hospitals.
In transplant committees, yeah, that's one of the things that can
Really?
disqualify you. Yeah.
Wow, that's fascinating, dude. We're racking up. We got to write these down because we never do. But so there's the Japanese book. We definitely have to have an episode on like these transplant committees and like the philosophy behind these decisions. I think that'd be fascinating. I would love to do that.
Yeah,
Is
one
there a
of the
reason you shot down that idea? We've talked about that before, and I think you shot it down.
no, it's still on our list. It's just one where we need more preparation than usual because I'll have to make up some specific
Right.
circumstances. But
Yeah,
um,
I'm sure there's a website,
there probably
you
is.
know,
Yeah, and
with like
ChatGPT could
scenarios.
probably give us some too. But yeah, I have quite a few, so we'll have to do that one pretty soon.
Yeah, I'd love to do that one. That'd be fascinating. But it's interesting. That is really interesting. Like they take that into account, like relationships and whatnot. And but it makes total sense. Like it's weird in the context. Like why would you like, you know, like in context, just in a microcosm of what's going on, it's a bit weird. But if you think about it in the grand scheme of things, I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
apparently
what's
they
the
just had
quality of life of this individual?
higher fatality rates with those people. So
Yeah. These are the
um,
kind of studies I like interest me the more I get older. I don't know why. Like I love reading studies about like these people live longer because of this, and not the quack stuff. You know what I mean? Like if you have a bag of Doritos every day, you know, not that kind of stuff, but like the stuff like this. Like you're quite like people who lived on this island did all this their entire life, and their lifespan, like just like my book, is like way longer than somebody on the other side of the world who goes works a 9 to 5 job and goes into an office and has an hour commute every day. Like that kind of stuff like makes sense to me, and it's really fascinating.
yeah, we're definitely gonna have to have an episode on that. Not just your book, but yeah, like how do our life circumstances contribute to our longevity?
Longevity, yeah. I could
Longevity.
include the man's search for meaning in there too. There's so much interesting stuff that might merit its own episode, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay, so we are at the hour mark. We only covered one of the two topics, so we can either quickly cover the second, or I do have one more question for our current topic if we want to do that instead.
Which one do you think will be more interesting?
Um,
I think
I
legacy I could say really quick, but
okay. Well, we could do legacy then.
well, what's your question?
Yeah. Okay.
You
All
got me
right.
hanging on a thread here.
Okay. Or we're probably gonna go over the hour by a little bit, but that's right. I don't want to keep
Okay.
you on the edge of your seat for too long. Uh,
Yeah.
it's another little depressing topic, but I'm gonna say it anyway because it's reality. So we said that a lot of people, well, I guess the better way to say it is in every relationship where you grow old together, one of you is gonna have to live without the other at some point. Well, another thing to think about is almost everyone is going to lose their parents before they themselves die. So I don't want to get too depressing of things, but I'll just say right now, like I think about my parents dying all the time, and it makes me really sad. But there's no way around it.
Yeah. Dude, I think about there's that line in Lord of the Rings. Like no parent should have to watch their kid die. That
Oh yeah,
line is hard, man. I hate that line. I mean, I it's such a good line, but like that's better than I mean, it's expected, but you're absolutely right. And something I didn't think about until just recently. I have so many siblings, you know this. Dude, one of us is going to be last. You ever think about that? Like
oh
at
that's
some point,
true.
one of them will have to bury all the other ones. The same with the friends. Like one of you, like you or I, like one of us is gonna go first. Like it's just very strange. Like I don't know what more to say about that, but like that is life, and I don't know about you, man, but like first 20 years of my life, I didn't really have to deal much with death. I had an aunt who died young, but other than that, like they say that like it'll start speeding up, because my grandparents will go, then our parents, and then siblings. Like we're gonna have to get used to the idea of death. Just the way of life. It's weird. But there's the flip side, then you also got your kids, and that's the legacy bit.
That's right.
So
That's right.
yeah,
Yeah. Let's hit the legacy really quick.
sure.
So,
Well, for me, I was thinking about this yesterday. Jane and I were talking. Actually, it was just this morning. Something never come to my mind until this morning. Do you ever realize, like, with new technology and everything, like we're gonna have new ways, like great ways to see like our parents. I mean, think about all the photos you take on your phone. In fact, if you have an iPhone right now, there's a thing, I forget what it's called, but it's pretty much like a digital will. You can sign your Apple account to go to a certain person, usually your kid. And so when you die, it will transfer like all your credentials will go to them and they can see all your photos and they can like archive all of that. Like we are the first generation that can really do that. Like, that's a new thing. So I think going forward, it will be way easier to keep track of like, hey, this is what my mom did with her life. Like, look, this is what she looked like, and this was her career, and this was my parents having fun at the beach. Like, I feel like that'll get a lot easier with the digital age, which is cool. I think that's really cool. But, and then for me personally, I'll just say real quick, like, as far as legacy, that's where my creativity comes. That's why I want to write a book. I kind of want my thoughts to kind of be immortalized somehow. It's the same with people. I know a guy who started a YouTube channel, and we talked about that. He said the main reason I'm doing it is so my kids can see like what I do. Like this is my career. It's almost like a digital journal, but it says what words can never say. And so yeah, like when it comes down to legacy, that's how I see it. I kind of want my thoughts to be out there somehow, and you can't do that if you don't create. But it's easier now than ever, so I got no excuse.
yeah, it for me it goes back to the question: if a tree falls in the woods and no one heard it, then did a tree really fall?
Right?
Because Hannah does a lot of ancestral work, like family history, and she'll
Yeah,
go back in the timeline and go back further and further and further. And the farthest back she can ever get is like 1700s, and that's when you see nothing but a name for in a newspaper or an article that was saying, "Oh, this person got married on such and such date," or "This person was baptized on such and such date." Because I think the Catholic Church keeps pretty good records of that. But dude, before that, like all of those people, I feel like from probably the 1400s back to the dawn of civilization, they've all
yeah,
been forgotten about unless you were royalty, a king, you did some grand act that changed the world. I mean, all
yeah,
those people, I'm not going to say it's like they never existed because even if we don't realize what changes they made to the world, they still made those changes. But we're never going to know their names. Nobody's ever going to know their names. Nobody's ever
yeah,
going to know what they looked like or what they acted like. But yeah, you made a good point. Like these days with technology, we have a huge advantage in that because if I were to make a YouTube video and post online, chances are, if humanity survives this long, it's still going to be available in 10,000 years. I mean, what are they going to do?
yeah,
Like delete all the archives of YouTube? Maybe, but chances are a lot better for me than they were for my ancestors that my
yeah.
existence is going to be recognized for decades to come.
There are even people out there who are trying to archive everything on YouTube, like, with server firms and everything for that very reason. Like, they want to archive the internet so that, like, let's say Google goes under for some weird reason someday, like, it's all there. Like, it's still there somehow. So that's a whole nother conversation. But for me, it's like, for legacy, it's not even necessarily, I don't care that people remember my name or my face, but like, in life, what do we want to do? Like we want to make a difference, we want to uplift somebody else, spread kindness or love or whatever it be. And I don't know, man, when I think about people like J.R.R. Tolkien, like, you know what I mean? Like he is immortalized. Like his ideas and his books will never be gone. They will be here forever, just like Beethoven, his music and what it means, like will be here forever. And to me, like that's the pinnacle. You know, I think to make that kind of impact, you know, regardless of whether they remember your name, like they remember your ideas. And if I can make that kind of impact on even somebody I will never know because I'll be dead, like I feel like at that point you've kind of won at life, you know?
Yeah, I think that's one of the major reasons why I've always wanted kids is because I know that I'm never going to be U.S. president, or I'll probably never be an author as large as as Tolkien was. So
Yeah,
I remind myself like, hey, even though my name may not go down in history, if I have kids and I
mm,
do a great job parenting and they turn out to be good people, then when I am gone, well, they're going to carry on my existence in a sort, and hopefully they're going to teach their kids the
yeah,
same way, and then their kids are going to teach their kids, and so that way throughout my lineage, I guess is the better way that I'm depending on my legacy continuing onward, not so much through like the
true.
history books.
It's interesting how legacy can be both a very selfish thing and very unselfish, you know, like putting your name on everything. Like I want to be remembered for, you know, this is my name. But at the same time, it can be the most unselfish thing ever, you know. Like you said, if you're making those waves, people 400 years down the line, down your lineage will never know your name. But like maybe something that their parents taught them came down that line, you know, and you made that effect. And so making those waves and cementing your legacy in that aspect is kind of the most unselfish thing you can do.
Yeah, true. All right. Well, I think that is a fitting end to our podcast. Buck, I want to thank you for joining me today. Another
Of course.
insightful episode, I would say.
Yeah,
And
it wasn't as depressing as I thought. So that was nice.
no, it wasn't. Not as depressing as some of our other episodes, that's for sure.
Let's do it again in 50 years and see if it's more depressing.
Hey, that's a good idea. We should have this exact same topic in 50 years and see what changes
Whoa, to the day. I'll set a reminder.
to the day. So, for all you listeners out there, you got some tidbits on future episode topics. So, hopefully, you're excited about that. Make sure you go check our sponsor, skills.skills.com. Code is DEATH. That is DEATH. Go and use that code for 65% off. And
Debt and death.
debt and death. Yes. Either one will get you 65% off. Well, I think the debt one gets you negative 10% off, actually.
Yeah, you will actually owe them money.
Yeah, you're going to owe them money, so you're going to be in debt. But we want to thank you guys for listening. Make sure you go check out Buck's channel, Z Buckner, link in the description, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Bye bye.